Hello, what's up everybody, this is Mario. I'm back after a long break, for which I have to apologize, but I didn't have much time to make videos recently. This time with a guide on playing Rengar in the jungle. This is the recent version, the pre-season patch has already been applied. And alright, let's going. So, we're obviously on the other team. First off, my runes. I'm using armor penetration marks and quintessences, armor seals, and flat cooldown reduction glyphs. And for masteries, I'm taking the offense tree. It would actually be good to have a picture in this video, but I don't know how to do that. Basically, you're starting with the cooldown reduction and damage amplification, the double-edged sword. Then you go for the attack damage buffs. Then take both the bonus on spell damage after dealing auto attacks and auto attack damage when hitting with spells, and the executioner, all three, percent attack damage, armor penetration, and the executioner. Then you go for 3 points in utility and movement speed, then 2 points in defense, the hit damage reduction from monsters, and 2 health regen per 5 seconds. And then you should have 2 points left, those can go into attack speed. Yeah, then you're good to go. Those are my masteries. I think those are the best in the new patch for full AD Rengar. So obviously I should mention I'm going full HD Rengar. I'm playing Rengar for, I don't know, probably 1 year now, about 1 year, and I got lots of games with him. I think about 400 ranked games. No, wait. 230 ranked games and lots of normal games, so I'm really quite experienced with him. Tried lots of different builds and summoner spells. For summoner spells, especially in the last season, Exhaust was the best secondary spell to smite. Now it's not that clear anymore. You could also probably go with Ghost or maybe even Ignite, but I'm still sticking to the Exhaust. Exhaust is viable. It used to be strong because it had armor reduction once you had mastery to it, but the slow and attack speed debuff is still strong when dueling, because actually Rengar isn't a strong duelist. It sometimes gives you an edge and can be used offensively and defensively. Good when you're ganking, and well, you don't really need an escape at all. So basically, as you've just watched, you'd usually start with the red buff, if that's possible. I tried both starts very often, and red is just better. Basically, you do need blue buff on the jungle route. It's important because it reduces your cooldowns. And once you have used 5 abilities, you can use the Empowered W, Empowered Battle Roar, to basically heal yourself back up. And if you start with blue buff at level 1, then you don't have all 3 abilities, so you don't get the maximum healing effect out of blue. So it's better if you start red and you have this on-hit damage bonus. And by the time you reach the blue buff, you are already level 3, which means you have all 3 abilities, as you can see here. And the cooldown reduction gives you a maximum healing bonus you can get from always losing those. So, to micromanaging the jungle, if there are only minor monsters left in a camp and you only need a short time to wait until the ability comes off cooldown, then you should actually wait that to get another ferocity stack. You always need to get those 5 ferocity stacks full as fast as possible to heal yourself up, because actually you're taking a lot of damage by those minions and you really need those heals as much as you can get. Then the other thing to remind is that unlike the attack speed bonus from the empowered savagery and the non-empowered standard savagery, the armor bonus from Battle Roar and empowered Battle Roar do not stack. This means if you use both directly onto each other at the same time in a too short interval, then you will override the first armor bonus, and this means that the overall amount of time that you spend with those armor bonus while taking hits from the monsters will be shorter. So it's actually good to wait just until the first armor bonus is over and then use the other W. As you can see here, I'm waiting for this to time out and then use Battle Roar again, and then I have more time, basically 6 seconds of buffed armor rather than only 3, yeah. Because you will really struggle with health sustain in jungle. It's important to get this stuff right. As you can also see, I'm, if by any means possible, trying not to gank early and just rushing the jungle. That's maybe something you should prepare your teammates for if you're playing solo queue, so they take solid early laners. You can still gank if the enemy lane is pushing, but it's really dangerous because you're extremely squishy, and while jungling, having low health is quite common on Rengar, and you don't have any damage at all early, especially considering you didn't take attack damage runes, but armor penetration runes. It will pay off on the long run, trust me on this. I played him often enough. Of course, you'd think it's always good to snowball early, but against, well, not stupid enemies, you won't be able to get kills that easily without your ultimate anyways. So, alright, I did my first back. Usually once you have 1125 gold. This means that you can buy the Vampiric Scepter for some lifesteal and the Boots of Speed. Now you might think, okay, you got the Empowered W to heal yourself up, so why would you go Vampiric Scepter? Well, the reason is you really want to max the Savagery first, because it's both the best for ganking damage and for jungle speed as well. Now, if you're using only one W and use the empowered buff on the sorry, not on the W, only one Q, and then use the empowered buff on the W, then you will need more time to clear the jungle creeps. And if you have a Vampiric Scepter, you got some lifesteal. This means you can actually use the empowered ability stacks on your Q and clear minions in the jungle first then. Alright, so when you gank, basically, since you're coming in invisible anyways, you should take a route that is least likely to have been warded farther out where you're still visible, or with pink wards, because if they see you use your ultimate and come in and they walk back in time, then you'll have to wait a very long cooldown. As you can see, it's full 2 minutes on level 1. So this is something you should really be taking care of. So usually I really try in most situations to come from the own lane from behind and then use the ultimate in a way that I stealth shortly before getting into vision range of the enemy minions. And then you have the most time to gank, and you can be quite sure that the enemies didn't see you using your ultimate. Yeah, so as we were playing AD Rengar, don't forget you're a melee carry. This means that it depends a bit on the enemy team composition, but in most cases you can actually take kills because you're going to carry in terms of damage. You don't need to let those kills for your teammates necessarily. But it depends. In some, if you've been counterpicked in some way that you won't be able to do much later in the teamfight phase, then it would be better to let kills to your teammates, because they'll have to fight most of the time. Well, at the beginning of the team fights 4 against 5, and you can only come in a bit later once the abilities in the enemy team, which are picked to counter you, have been used on your teammates. But we'll see that later, probably. So we've just noticed the enemies trying Dragon. So we're doing some stuff. To those who haven't played Rengar yet, this jump can always be triggered without any cooldown whenever you're invisible. This can be either when you're standing in the bush, so you can jump all the time to an enemy when you're in the bush, or from your ultimate. It doesn't really matter, so it doesn't have a cooldown or anything. It doesn't have any sort of bonus damage as well. I was just stupid, I got executed here. But fortunately no enemies did get the kill, so... Alright, so at this point I still didn't have any more items. Now I got a lot of gold, and yeah, I bought myself a Tiamat. Going for Hydra, for a long time I refused to do that, because I thought, well, Hydra is basically more for split pushing and for dealing this area of effect damage, and Rengar is actually designed to do high single target burst, so why would you buy an area of effect damage item? But I forgot that basically I didn't see at that point the active of this item gives you a plus 100% AD ratio to your overall nuke combo, and that's quite amazing once you have some more damage. And positive side effects of these items are that you can actually split push extremely fast, and you can also clear jungle creeps extremely fast. So you will be high on level, usually as high as the solo laners if you're doing well, or yeah, only shortly behind them, which is really nice for a jungler. So this is even without counter jungle. You may counter jungle weak enemies, but since I'm taking those late game oriented runes without any attack damage bonus for early game, usually I don't try to counter jungle, and Rengar is indeed very susceptible to counter jungling himself. But well, that wasn't much of a matter in this game. Maokai didn't try to counter jungle me at all. I also got the picks and bans in this game, and usually if I'm going to play jungler, then I just simply ban those junglers that are strong against me, which is first of all Vi, because the Vi ultimate counters Rengar extremely hard, and she can just well, defeat him at any time basically. It's extremely strong against him. I did a mistake here to try to engage deeper on that. Didn't know Maokai was there. Could have guessed, but well. As you can see, it's not looking too good. 11-7. Darius is getting pretty fat on top lane, and I'm not helping Shen at all. I have never ganked top lane yet. Yeah, I was feeling bot lane is most important, because later if Graves is doing enough damage and maybe getting a Guardian Angel or something like that, then I won't be able to kill him anymore. So I tried to control that and didn't care as much about Darius. Shen was actually pretty furious at me for that, because he yeah, would have needed some help really urgently, but well, that's the way I played. So now I got Bone Tooth Necklace. You can also get Bone Tooth Necklace before the Tiamat, at least before Tiamat components. I just had enough gold for Tiamat, so I bought it immediately. You don't need to rush Hydra. The Bone Tooth Necklace only costs 800 gold, and it gives you this nice attack damage per level stat. So this means when you gain some levels, it's going to be very cost efficient, which by this time it already is. So about it. I have not done the calculation on when exactly it is cost efficient. Wait, actually I have at some point, but I don't really remember. It must have been about level 7, champion level 7 or something. And it's not just about the AD. You should generally get the snowball items you're going to buy earlier anyways, because you need to start collecting those stacks early. You need those trophies to get the stat boosts, and the earlier you buy this item, yeah, the earlier basically you can get the boni from the trophies. But then again, if you buy snowball items too early, then you'll lack the stats necessary to actually kill enemies, and you won't get stats that way either, so you have to balance it out a bit. There's no point in rushing it before Vampiric Scepter, for example. Probably Tiamat before Bone Tooth might even be better. Actually depends. If the enemies are tough and you're a bit behind, then you should go for those instantly more effective items like Tiamat. And if you're doing good anyways, you can already start building for the long run, which means building stack items earlier. Sword of the Occult is actually a viable option in Rengar as well, under certain conditions. If you manage to get ahead early, then you can buy it and get a really strong advantage, killing off people in the enemy team. Yeah, well, since you don't have flash, you better ask for help from your teammates earlier, because you won't have any sort of escape aside from your ultimate, and usually you won't have your ultimate as escape anyways, because as you've already seen, I'm using the ultimate to engage on the enemies and not to get away, because the stealth can actually be prolonged to, what is it by now? 3.75 seconds. By this time, with the full AD build, you're dead anyways. You can't survive that long. So it's trying to use it as a escape tool. That was a bit stupid. That was a waste of an ultimate here. They still saw me use it, so they went back onto tower range. Sorry, what was I? Yeah, saving it up as an escape tool isn't that reliable in, well, already at about when you're fighting 3 against 3. As you can see, jungling is actually pretty fast. Remember always to use this active to get some more damage down. Now Shen didn't like me and he didn't care, and he's kinda trolled there, not attacking Darius, so I didn't feel like attacking him either, because I don't have much health, and if Darius from full health starts attacking me with his abilities and Shen seemingly doesn't care, then this is actually pretty dangerous. He could kill me really fast. So Leona got angry on Shen, and she's angry on Ezreal anyways. Ezreal wasn't doing that good in this game, at least not early. He didn't have any lifesteal, so they lacked lane sustain, as you can see from his build. There's not too much happening right now. Trying to remember what I didn't cover yet. So I will discuss the build later. So we get there. Yeah, it's still, if you can see the gold count, the enemies still have a strong lead. 5k gold in only 90 minutes. That was nice. I asked myself, how on earth did I get this kill on Janna after I've long been dead, and now I just saw. Dar is really strong. So we're back with a Hydra and BF sword. You have two options. Actually, you have three options what to make of this BF sword, and they are all viable under certain conditions. The one I use almost every game is building it into a mercurial scimitar, because usually the enemy team will try to hit you with some sort of hard crowd control once you jump into their team and try to burst their AD carry or whoever in their team. And if this happens, if the enemy support or whoever does this spell reacts fast enough and does this completely shut down your entire damage output, which is completely devastating. You just die, not dealing any damage and losing the team fight for your team for sure. So you don't want that to happen. Also, there are lots of scenarios where, for example, if the enemy team has a Lux as in this game, then usually I'd be tempted to buy it as well, because you're chasing her and you can just immediately cleanse her light binding the moment she casts it. That's quite awesome. It also gives you magic resist, which is nice. Mercurial Scimitar is against most teams the best. On this match, however, when you're looking at a team, there's not much to cleanse actually. Janna's crowd control can't be cleansed at all except the first slow, and slows aren't no problem. You're jumping on the enemy anyway, so you're next to him. And by the time he has reacted, he's either dead or you're going to die anyway, so there's no point for this. There's the Lux light binding, but that's pretty much it. You can't cleanse a lot there. Maokai snare doesn't hold on long, and if he jumps on you, well, not that good anyway. So in this game I decided to go for Bloodthirster, because Bloodthirster is the item that can give you most attack damage from a single item. At least, yeah, right after fully stacked Sword of the Occult. It's a bit more reliable though, and also gives you extra lifesteal, and this extra lifesteal also applies to the passive from and the now not to the active, only to the passive from the Ravenous Hydra. So you're going to heal up a lot, which won't help you against being bursted down if you're stupid, but in some scenarios it will actually help. Lifesteal is nice to have in close calls. It always tends to save your Alright, what else do we have here? The boots. I think there are two viable boots options for Rengar. One is mobility and the other is swiftness. You decide which of those two to buy. By the way, yeah, it's simply a decision, a matter of strategy. Boots of swiftness are better during team fights, and yeah, general engagements, because boots of... Sorry, did I say mobility? I mean boots of swiftness. Boots of mobility give you this nice movement speed bonus to run around. Nicely played by Graves there. Oh, sorry. They give you this movement speed bonus to run over the map, and you can often catch enemies with boots of mobility when they're in the jungle after a teamfight day 1 and you have just respawned and you start stalking them with your ultimate. Then you can reach a lot faster, a lot further into the map with those boots of mobility. And you can gank more often, of course. Easier to get close to an enemy when ganking. But once you've made the first hit, or you have been hit the first time, then this entire movement speed bonus is gone, and it actually makes you really vulnerable to kiting. And so boots of swiftness still make you really fast, also for moving over the map, but they will keep this movement speed when you're in the team fight, and from the first target you bursted to either immediately run away before the enemies react and can catch you. This often actually works. Or to actually get close to the second target and burst this as well. Oh, this was so genuine. I love this. That teamfight was fun. I died, but it looked awesome. Look, sitting on 13 Magi stacks. That's crazy. Yeah, so earlier I usually bought Boots of Swiftness, but by now I feel that Boots of... sorry, I'm always confusing those. I used to buy Boots of Mobility, and now I switched over to buying Boots of Swiftness more often, because you can make more plays basically with Boots of Swiftness. You really... There's really good use for your movement speed during team fights. Picking up kills, people trying to run away, actually all works better with Boots of Swiftness, to immediately be able to chase them and get those additional jumps over, to get just in range through a brush to jump on the enemy that's running away. There are many situations where Boots of Swiftness are better. Alright, so by this time I bought an item that is also extremely important on Rengar. It's Last Whisper. Remember, you got a lot... Ah, look. That's so much fun to do. That's why I'm playing Rengar, basically. 500 gold and... No, nothing she could have done that quickly. Yeah, right. Last Whisper, the percent armor penetration synergizes with your flat armor penetration from the Bone Tooth necklace and from your runes. Gives you a lot more net damage. Always pick up stacks wherever you can. Get those ferocity stacks up. Well, by the time, enemies are still a slight bit ahead in terms of gold, but we managed to catch up rather nicely. I might mention... those trophy thresholds, what I think of them. Of course, all are nice to have. Aside from the 3 trophy bonus, the only one that actually gives you a damage bonus in some way, the 9 trophy threshold is extremely nice. The increased jump range really matters. You can jump pretty much anywhere. It's quite amazing how far you can reach. People thought they were out of your reach, and then you just jump right on them again. Gives you a lot of mobility. Offensive mobility, I should say. Cause those leaps usually don't help you when you're trying to run away, of course. Some tricks you can do though. There are some spots on the map where you can leap from a brush to a monster camp on the other side. Namely that's here on the golems. When you're running away here in some way and there are golems over there, then you can place the ward and then jump over to the golems. Similarly, when you're running this direction, you can also jump over from here to the golem and then run away. Also saves you some time. Aside from that, not that much. When you have the 9 stacks, you can also quite comfortably jump to the dragon. But when you're on low health, that won't help you much. So by now we've turned around this game, and this is how far you can jump.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
And yeah, it's not looking too well for them. Right now sitting on 18 kills and 10 assists, 28 takedowns. That's quite nice. I've bought myself a brutalizer. Yeah, the last item is something where you've also some more options. In most scenarios I would go for Black Cleaver because you're still far away from the 30% cooldown reduction cap, so you can still use this extra cooldown reduction. It's really nice to have on Rengar, but you usually can't buy an extra item for that. I don't like defensive items on Rengar at all. Never buy a defensive item, you'll just lack the damage to burst. Yeah, just always go for offensive item. If you bought the Mercurial Scimitar from your first BF sword, then you could also get Bloodthirster next. Namely, if the enemies have low armor, then the second Bloodthirster will do more damage than the Brutalizer Black Cleaver build. But I'm not actually that sure about it. You will have more lifesteal, but the armor penetration, armor reduction from Black Cleaver is pretty nice. And you also get at least some HP from Black Cleaver, so in most scenarios Black Cleaver would probably be better. Just if you need more flat damage against low armor but high health targets, for example, then you might want to go for a Bloodthirster instead. Alright, so we got Black Cleaver, Bloodthirster. You could also go for Yungu's Ghost Blaze, but, well, I'm not sure that's that good. Would be an option to use the active when jumping in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You also... yes, I forgot to cover the third option of the first BF sword. You can also buy an Infinity Edge and couple that with a Sword of the Divine. And then when jumping in, you're using the Sword of the Divine active, and you do exactly 3 auto attacks. The Qs, the Savagery will count as an auto attack. They will critically strike, so you do those 2 and another auto attack, so you do 3 critical hits that get the Infinity Edge damage bonus to nuke off anything, basically. It's just it will require you slightly more time, and for example when trying to nuke a caster, then this might be enough time for him to get to hit the Zhonya's bottom. So it didn't work that well for me. Well, sometimes it did, but I just didn't use it that often. I know it's an option and it fits the Rengar playstyle quite well, but then again, once you have used this the Sword of the Divine active, then you lose the attack speed bonus from it, and generally you don't profit much from attack speed. Building attack speed on Rengar is quite useless, so aside from this effect and the coupling with the Infinity Edge, Sword of the Divine is pretty much a wasted item on Rengar, and a wasted item slot. And I prefer having the strength even after the first kill, so I can do damage to more enemies before going down. Usually the scenario where you would like to have Infinity Edge and Sword of the Divine is when you don't have the damage to instantly kill the enemy AD carry otherwise. That would have been a quarter kill, but well, she got the last light binding. So that would be the scenario where you don't have the damage to kill the enemy AD carry without those 2 items, and the enemy team is so ahead that once you have killed him, you're dead anyways. So then you'd get Infinity Edge and Sword of the Divine. Otherwise, just go for those stats that keep strong after your first engage. Boots of Swiftness, Black Cleavers, stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. They had a strong advantage, and we turned it around. And as you can see from the stats, Rengar was quite effective. Hope you enjoyed that guide, and I'll try to bring some more content out in the future. So see you around.